All right. Are we live yet?
Yeah, but the countdown didn't work, so I think we're live.
We are live. Okay. All right. Well, don't worry about the countdown. We shortened it up, and we will get on with the show today.
Yeah.
First of all, hello and good afternoon, everybody. This is Bobby Hughes, the executive director for the Eastern Pennsylvania Coalition for Abandoned Mine Reclamation, and I'm joined here by my co-host Ian Damit, the watershed manager for the Western Pennsylvania Coalition. Um, for Abandoned Mine Reclamation. And I want to just give a quick intro to the sort of PA Chronicles, which is our sort of one of a kind podcast that is having conversations with passionate community mining partners, and we're highlighting outstanding reclamation and community cleanup type projects, AMD remediation. We're showcasing some examples of stream improvement projects and successes, and we're kind of sharing some emergent ideas and technologies to reclaim and remediate Pennsylvania's legacy of abandoned mine lands and post-mining impacted watersheds throughout the state. And each week here, we typically have a guest that we've talked to and seeing if we can get an interview with them to find out more about those folks that are doing the on-the-ground work from various number of industries, both the state, federal, the local community groups, and other organizations that are working on abandoned mine reclamation projects. This week we were supposed to have Mr. Tom Clark from Kleinfelder, and he called us the other evening and let us know that he sort of fell ill and was bitten by a tick and wasn't feeling very well and had the fever and chills. So while we encouraged him to try and take the call from his bedside, we were like, let's just postpone it here. We don't want to see that. So we're looking at either maybe next Friday or pushing him back and rescheduling his presentation and podcast with us for a future time. So with that, Ann and I have sort of decided that maybe we can give you a rundown on just EPCamera and WIPCamera and some activities that we've both been up to statewide, and maybe go into a little bit about some of the joint visioning efforts that our coalitions and our boards have put forth since the last fall. And many of those things are being implemented right now, and others will need to be maybe funded in the future if we can get some additional funding. But we're going to talk about some of the things that we're up to, a little bit of background on Ann and myself, back and forth here, and then we'll talk about some projects that are going on across the state, both in the western region and here in eastern and north central PA. So while we don't have a backup, we are the backup. So we will do this on the fly, and I think it'll be just fine. And then you can all get a better feel for the organizations here that are working for you, working for our communities in the coal fields throughout Pennsylvania, and just seeing some really good bright spots and highlights of things to come, and a little bit of recap on some of the things that we've been doing over the last 6 months to a year. So, Ann,
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I just want to, reiterate this podcast is a product of the joint visiting session of WIPCamera and EPCamera, and it was the first that we'd had in 25 years of our existence. Um, since the beginning. This was the first joint visioning session to try to figure out additional things that we can be doing together across the state. And we're going to, later in the episode, we're going to get into what some of the items that were identified are. But first and foremost, I really want to thank the Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds for sponsoring um, having this podcast. It's really been fun for us, and we really like to get to know our guests, a little bit more personally. And so that's another reason why we thought that Bobby and I could just continue and get to know each other a little bit better. We're already really good friends, but we want the rest of the people that we serve to be able to know us a little bit better personally as well. So we thought that might be interesting to kind of interview each other on a personal level. Um, so that's how we'll start out. And you can also type in any questions you have for us into the chat boxes, And wherever you're joining us from, either whether that be at the Whipcammer or Epcammer's YouTube pages, or on Epcammer's Facebook page as well. I think you can type into the chat and ask us questions, and we'll be able to answer you in real time. And we'll show all that in the chat box here as well. So to get started, what we normally like to do is ask some personal questions of our guest. And so I'm going to start by asking Mr. Bobby Hughes, if anybody in here isn't familiar with him personally. Bobby, where did you come from? What's your background? What's your education? What's your early career look like? Also, who's your family? And what brought you into this abandoned mine reclamation arena? How did you get here? Do you have a history of coal mining in your family? So that's a lot of questions, all wrapped up into one, but we know Bobby likes to chat, so he'll tell us the whole thing. I'm excited to learn about you.
Well, thanks, Ann. Yeah, I just give people a background here, and like many of our other guests, I particularly grew up here in the Wyoming Valley in Luzerne County, in the coal region, sort of the heart of the northern anthracite coal fields, and it's a place that has become to be well known as the Valley with a Heart, which is very ironic because the day I came around was the Agnes flood of June of '72. On June 23rd, and at that time there was a very significant impact to our valley from flooding that took place on the Susquehanna River that raised our river from like 2 feet up to about 44 feet. That flooded the valley, and that just happened to be my date of birth, coming into this world and being evacuated from one of the local hospitals up to a hospital on higher ground to be delivered. And at that time in '72, this is a point at which most of the mining had been really going south, in the sense that the industry up here in the northern fields wasn't very active, and there had been some historic flooding of mines back in 1959 with the Knox mine disaster. '72 kind of hit us really hard and flooded even more of the mines. And not a lot of coal companies wanted to go in to pump and treat the water, which would then have to take place after 1977 when the surface mining law came into play. So I was kind of born into having to deal with water. I'm a zodiac, my Cancer sign, and it's also deals with water. So it's just one of those things that you have this attraction and an innate desire to, like, for me, to clean up the areas around here that I grew up in, because that's all I've seen pretty much my entire life. But by the time I got into my elementary years and sort of junior high years, being of that Gen X generation, the playgrounds in our area were the old coal banks. They were the old buildings, the collieries and the breaker grounds and the mine fires. All that stuff was in our backyard, and it's where we sort of adventured to without even thinking about health and safety at that time. And here I am, ironically, 30 years into my career, always talking about health and safety and trying to keep kids out of those sites and to get those areas reclaimed. But growing up, there was a lot of that impact around me, and there wasn't a whole lot of places that had, clean streams, unless you were at a state park or Moon Lake, and some other surrounding areas that we would have to drive off to visit. So I became real curious at an early age about doing some background and research on, like, just mining history. And so I spent a lot of time at our Oosterhout Library and Wyoming Valley Geological and Historical Society. So I really became familiar with a lot of the history of mining in the region at a young age. And I was a nerd. I liked history. I liked books. I liked hearing about things that were helping this region sort of, the boom that came with coal, and then also the decline. And so that became a part of my history and just learning about that information. Yes, it was the Dana Street Hospital where I was born. Most kids that were born that day around the flood, you were born either at the Misericordia University, or which I think was College Misericordia at the time, on the west side of the Wyoming Valley in the back mountain, or you were born, at General Hospital in Wilkes-Barre, and then you had to be evacuated since it was under about 17 feet of water up to the Dana Street Hospital in the Heights, which is on much higher ground. So that's where I was sort of being able to come into existence here and do this kind of work as I got older. I went to Penn State. I went to college, first one in my family to sort of graduate from college, and on a full scholarship. I lived in the Oakhammer Terrace for most of my life, which is a low-income housing project in the city of Wilkes-Barre, now known as the Boulevard Townhomes. And they had a McGlynn Learning Center there that I still go back to these days to do programs and to support the kids with an after-school program that they have, to provide some type of technical assistance or educational programs over time. And we support a lot of their functions that they do, or my wife and I do personally, since that's where I grew up. And a lot of those kids that go there are into the elementary school systems that I went to at Heights Elementary in Wilkes-Barre. And so that's literally my backyard. So I really enjoy going back and working with the kids, because we do a lot of environmental education throughout our region, but Wilkes-Barre area has a real special place in my heart because it's my hometown area and school district that we work with on occasion for different types of projects and grants. So going to Penn State, I just did a lot of work on interning through the state. I worked with the Bureau of Abandoned Mine Reclamation here in Wilkes-Barre back in the early 90s. And later went to the district mining office, which was in Hawk Run, which Tom Clark and others at Kleinfelder are working on a project right there in my old stomping grounds where the former district mining office was, that's now in Moshannon, to look at treating and evaluate the discharges down there at the Acme discharges in that watershed. So kind of comes full circle. I kind of got out of school pretty early because of the internships I did with the state. I was 3.5 years, and
Wow.
I had graduated because of enough credits through the internships and my coursework that I was doing a lot of mine work in terms of water quality monitoring. I was doing borehole monitoring, taking gas readings from places like Centralia in the mid 90s to evaluate gases in the homes down at that area. And then later on, we came back to do a lot of cleanup efforts in Centralia to take away a lot of the trash and tires over a 10-year period that has made that place a lot cleaner than it was historically. And we got a lot of volunteers together to pull those types of cleanups off to be successful. But while working and interning with the state, I kind of gained a lot of information, a lot of knowledge on the background of both abandoned mines and active mining. From the Title IV, we call it, for the Abandoned Mine Lands program, and then also the Title V, which is the sort of regulatory and compliance environment of active mining and surface mining permits throughout the state. So yeah, got to work on both halves of the state in the anthracite region for my first 2 years, to a year and a half in western Pennsylvania, and knew a lot of the watersheds and a lot of folks at that time. But we're talking the mid 90s, and then kind of got myself into a position with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council right out of college in the Northeast office to be their program manager, and kind of promoted up to the assistant director, where I was asked to run a conference on abandoned mine reclamation in 1996 that could foster really the charter and development of EPCAMR. And we did that at Wilkes University at that time, and invited WIPCAMR out, and many former board members of WIPCAMR helped us get organized, including Mark Keelar, who was a very good friend and colleague of both of ours, and he helped us get off the ground, up and running, and so did many other former board members of WIPCAMR, to sort of set the stage for what would become both of our coalitions working on abandoned mine issues throughout Pennsylvania. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. There's a whole lot more I think that could be talked about, but I don't want to go on
Yeah.
too much there.
Well, you're married to your high school sweetheart.
That is true. My wife and I, we're going on 33 plus years. Been together since we were 16 and 18 years old of age, and we just been together a very long time and been through quite a bit.
Yeah.
And we have
Beautiful
three,
children. Yeah.
yeah, it's three wonderful children. My oldest son Dawson is up in New York and Upper East Side as an RN, engaged to be married to his fiancee Jennifer. We're waiting for that to happen. Then my oldest daughter Haley has given us two wonderful grandchildren, Lincoln, James, and Callie Aspen, which are up our house quite often and just love doing things with Poppy. So and Manny.
Oh,
So they come up quite a bit, and we spend a lot of time with them. And Haley is a BHT. She works with special needs children and has got a education in early childhood education, and has even done some programs with me, environmental education programs that we were in the same trainings together, which was really fun when she was a little bit younger. And then my youngest is 16 now. Ethan is 16, and he is in 10th grade, and just a character. And
yeah.
he's very animated, very artistic, loves going to places on the weekends that we tend to do, comic cons and anime cons, and he just puts outfits together, and just it's like Halloween every day for him. So a lot of times on the weekends you will catch me in a number of costumes as well, and I have no problem with that. So we
Yeah,
have a lot
not
of
not
fun
to
on the
men
weekends.
not to mention in your Santa costume, which is coming up, people will find you in your Santa costume.
That is true. That is true. In a few weeks here, I take some time off from work, and my wife and I set up at the house a Santa chair, and people can visit. A lot of friends and family visit. We get donations, and we often don't spend a lot of money on ourselves, but we kind of buy a bunch of toys for the kids and coloring books and stuff, and let them come up and get a free picture with Santa instead of maybe the $30 one at the mall. So we set it up in my
Yeah.
house, and we've been doing that for, I mean, 20 plus years. I've been doing it with my family since they were very young, my nieces and nephews, and now I got great nieces and nephews that come and visit, and a lot of neighborhood kids from what I used to coach in junior high programs, and sort of mini
Yeah.
football and basketball. All those families stop up the house, and we give them some gifts for the holidays, and they get free pictures. So it's really nice to do
Yeah.
that.
So, in addition to your kind of lifelong dedication to abandoned mine reclamation issues, you're also you've always been someone who gives back to your community and gets involved in all the community things. And yeah, just really
Yeah.
loved in many ways.
Yes. Yeah. I don't. My thoughts are that we're here to make things better, and we got to make connections to do that. We got to meet people where they're at, and in our communities, often that's not in a good place. And so, the times that we get together with the people to do the kind of work that we do are times that I cherish. I want to make genuine friendships and lasting relationships with people. It's not always just about a project or a grant or something like that. It's to be successful in making really good lifelong lasting friendships in the community, so that you can go and call on them when you need them, or if they need you, vice versa. You can help them out. And so I try to do that, and have tried to do that my entire career, and hope I've done it very well and enough to make a difference. And I think we have, and I really enjoy working with community members from all different places in the region here that we can bob and weave in and out of to get the work done, and to count on them when I need to make a call for some assistance or some help.
Yeah, I think you're a legend. So
I
just,
don't know about that.
yeah,
Enough.
just
Well,
loved becoming your friend over the years and appreciate this opportunity to share you with everyone else to get to know
well,
you a little bit better.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
And you've been someone that it's almost like I call you my little sister, because you've
Yeah.
just been working with us for almost my entire career, and I've watched the work that you've done in Western Pennsylvania. I've watched the different programs that you've come up through to do very similar work out there, and you're extremely talented. And you help Mike and I and other staff out here, and whether it's going to lobby days in DC or just hearings and testimony, and helping me to shorten up some of the speeches that mine can get way too long, and give us the sound bites that we like to have for those types of events. It's been real appreciative. And your work on doing conference coordination and other things that we've done over the years has been a tremendous asset to both coalitions.
Thanks. Yeah.
And with that, we should find out a little bit more about you and
Okay.
your family and your upbringing and where you're from.
I'll start at the beginning like Bobby did. And so here's just an interesting, I guess, little tidbit is that my maiden name was Anne Marie Livengood, which is it called moniker? Monogram.
Yeah.
My monogram was AML. So, and then my first marriage, my name changed to Damut. So my monogram was AMD. So I just have like this connection to it. It's just weird connection to it, similar like Bobby. And I think that's true for a lot of people that end up here. We just have this strange connection that we just can't get away from it. My dad worked in the mines. He was a mine mechanic. And he actually quit whenever I was born because sadly my biological mom passed away and when I was a baby, and he wasn't able to get swing shifts to be able to take care of a newborn. And so he actually quit in the mines at that time. But it kind of stayed in our family, that kind of connection to the coal mines. And I knew from a very young age that this was what I was going to be doing, that I was going to be doing something to clean up my backyard and help my community. I knew from probably like first grade on, I just had this feeling that that's what I was going to be doing. And in high school, I did have a science teacher who took us out to sample abandoned mine drainage. And so just further got me interested, had a connection to the watershed groups. I started volunteering for my local watershed organization when I was, I think, 19 or 20. Went to tree plantings and trash pickups. And of course, they were doing abandoned mine reclamation projects. They had already owned an abandoned mine drainage treatment system. So I had a connection from the very beginning. I got my education. First, I started at Chatham University. Then when my first son was born, I transferred to Indiana because it was cheaper. Indiana University of Pennsylvania, IUP. And then from there, I went to Duquesne for a master's degree. And then immediately upon graduating Duquesne, I became one of the first years of the OSM AmeriCorps Vista program, which was directed through TL and Comp. If you guys remember way back in those beginning days, I was one of the first years of that program, which, really just set it in stone that this was what I was going to be doing as a career. I spent 3 years as a Vista for the Black Lakes Creek Watershed Association and Cooperative Trout Nursery. And they're known because they've really been movers and shakers throughout the years. They have spent millions of dollars on treatment systems, and they also operate a cooperative trout nursery that puts trout back into the stream that they've cleaned up. So, and then from there, I spent a couple years as a watershed specialist for Indiana County and a conservation district, and then came to Whipcammer, I believe, in 2010, and been there ever since. So 15 years with Whipcammer now. And that's kind of like the whole evolution there. And then family, I do have 4 kids. My oldest being 27, and my youngest is turning 2 next week. So I've got a whole range. I've got 2 adult children and 2 toddler age children. So that's been quite the interesting thing for me. Yeah, so I think that's probably it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think your kids are like the adopted Uncle Bobby, or
Yeah,
when I see them at different events that we're at together. So it's always
yeah,
great to see your kids, and I enjoyed coming out to your house for the Hoot and Annie we did the 1 year, and when Ethan
hmm
was much younger, and met
Oh yeah,
your daughter, and we cooked those pizzas in that outside oven. That was really really
yeah,
fun.
that was
It's
fun.
it's good to know them then, and now you look at them, it's like, where did the time go? you know
Yeah, yeah,
but we're doing a lot of things, I think, too, for them. So I mean, it's not just our kids, but the future generations of the kind of work that we're trying to do is really to leave them with some cleaner water than what we've had to see and endure our life. And a lot of those sites that we're talking about and things that we're trying to do are challenging. They're very expensive. They're going to take years to put into play, but we're on the front end of a lot of that, and type of capacity building that we're doing with community groups is the same thing we need to do and focus on internally for us too. So there's been a shift in doing that and putting more time and effort into what do we need to do as organizations to even make ourselves stronger and more viable, and stay relevant, but also to keep our organizations doing what we've done so well that many other groups haven't been able to do, or be able to sustain themselves over the last few decades. So it's a real like feather, and I think both of our caps. You guys have been around a lot longer than we have, but just tremendous organizations with volunteer boards made up of conservation district representation and at-large community members, local watershed folks, the anthracite industry, probably representatives from the bituminous industry, and the
hmm
Ripper Trade Association of the cogen plants are all folks that really kind of helped us pull together what we needed to become to be the two entities that many other states in Appalachia just don't have. And so we are very different in that respect, but also very unique that we are providing all these types of services and technical assistance and grant writing to, community groups across the state that other states may have a few groups that could do
yeah,
that, but not as large of a network in 43 counties across
yeah,
Pennsylvania like we have.
yeah. Good point, Bobby. 43 counties across the state. Yeah, we have a really, really broad representation um, on our boards. And yeah, like Bobby said, Whipcamera was formed in 1981. Did you say EPCAMera was formed in 1996?
Uh,
Um,
yeah, next year we're going on our 30th anniversary next year, and so we have a development committee, and we have a date that we're set for a banquet and reception that we're going to be putting out soon, and we're working through the logistics of that for next year to celebrate our 30th anniversary, which
that's
will be a
great.
nice milestone.
Yeah. Bobby, would you want to give us a rundown of some of the programs, services that you're offering, programs and different projects that you're in, and then I'll do that for Whipcamera after you're done.
Um, yeah, we can do that. I mean, some of the services and technical assistance that we provide to our local municipalities, our community groups that are the watershed organizations, the conservation districts, even the private sector in the consultant realm. We're able to offer professional technical services and can be subcontracted to do certain work because it comes into EPCAMera and helps to support us, and not maybe having to write so many state and federal grants that give a little bit limited amount of funding for staff and salaries and things like that, and other operational costs that we need to keep us moving forward. So we offer grant writing assistance. We write letters of support all the time. We are helping other groups manage some of their grants as a fiduciary. We give out mini grants that ARIPA has given us money for the last 15 years, and over $100,000 has been redistributed out to community groups across Pennsylvania through a mini grant program that EPCAMR and WIPCAMR developed with ARIPA, the Independent Power Producers Association, that funded those types of on-the-ground projects and support for community groups that are out there. We do a lot of mind mapping here in the office. We have several staff that are very savvy when it comes to ArcGIS, the geographic information systems technologies that are out there, and the tools to do mind mapping for the state for their mine subsidence insurance program. If you look on Penn State's Mind Map Atlas at I think it's mindmaps.psu.edu, you will probably find 20 to 30,000 plus mind maps that our staff have put in, along with other colleges and universities that are a part of a program to really get any kind of available historic underground and surface mind map into a digital collection. And we've been doing that for probably 12 years or more here. And Mike kind of leads up that program as our program manager, and we have several staff that are working on that particular program. Shawnee's Taylor, Steve Cornea. We have our AmeriCorps volunteers working to learn about how to do that type of work as well. And that can be found in that Mind Map Atlas to allow people to get mine subsidence insurance if they qualified, and obviously let other businesses know about, maybe we should or shouldn't be building on here unless we do a little bit more due diligence and look through these maps. And we can provide those types of interpretations of both symbology and depths to water and how much volume of water might be underground in some of these mine pools. So a lot of mapping efforts are going on right now by EPCAMR, but Mike really takes the cake when it comes to putting that stuff together with his expertise in the mine mapping. And we do a lot of the interpretation of the maps together, but when it comes to the digital type of the work, I really depend on the staff to be pulling that stuff together, and they've done a great job for a number of years. We have a part-time position that does a little bit of environmental education. She's doing work. Laura Reinheimer's working on Open Your Eyes to Litter, and it's these five booklets that are being updated with Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful, and along with that, some teacher resources and curriculum, companion lesson plans and things that are going with that particular project. And we have Frank Syndico, who's also with us, that's doing a lot of sort of I call it mainframe, but framework analysis and communications and stuff around gathering data, demographics, social vulnerability, statistics, and things that we could use and other groups can use for their grants. And he is doing quite a bit of work in that area, and also working on assisting other partners like Stream Restoration Inc. and their data shed online platform that takes in data from AMD treatment systems and puts all the kind of water quality in play to be able to review and analyze. And he's doing some other final reporting on a former project that we did with the Department of Energy on the Maria Mine Pool Complex in northern Schuylkill County to look at mine pool geothermal, solar applications, and we were hearing a lot about data centers coming in, so we've done a lot of research on that, and so a report will be coming out soon on that as well. So that their staff are like really doing a lot of different things, but they're all around abandoned mines and mine drainage and watershed restoration. And then my AmeriCorps that are here, between having Mark Jones as our community development coordinator, Maria Jareda as our watershed specialist, and also Dennis Dukinis. They're helping out with a lot of our field work that we're doing, watershed assessment work, flow, chemistry, macroinvertebrate sampling. Those are the kinds of things that they are up to, in addition to our educational programming and cleanup events and stuff that are typically what we do here in the region and throughout northeastern and north central PA. But just a quick few projects that are going on so you have an idea. We just got a grant from Amazon that is a remove illegal dump sites grant that they gave us $10,000. So we're going to be focusing in on a bunch of cleanups in Columbia and Luzerne County, and we've already partnered with both our districts, both our chapters that try to limit it in those areas, and a number of community watershed groups, and they're identifying places for us that we can use that money to remove tires and trash and conduct some cleanups. And so that's going to be put into play here in the fall and into the spring and summer of next year. So we'll be putting out events on our Facebook page over that time after we get some other stuff that we got to work out in terms of access and landowner agreements, or just get it in and discussing with them on how we can remove a lot of the items and the trash. And along with that, we're going to be becoming a Keep Pennsylvania affiliate. We're real excited about that. And there's several counties in our region that don't have any support or coverages for these types of cleanup type events. And we're going to pick up a few counties in our region to do that and become a statewide affiliate of Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful that we've been a partner with for my entire career. So this is a great culmination. And some of the money from that grant is allowing us to pay for like a fee and the membership affiliate. So we're going to do that with them here shortly, and it's in the process. And lastly, we're going to do a forum on illegal dumping and tire recycling options. Sometime next year, we're going to plan that out. Maybe get some legislators out and some other folks from different companies and perspectives on illegal dumping and what can be done about it. If something has to happen legislatively, then a $300 slap on the wrist when people are dumping stuff that costs way more than $300 to get rid of. We'll probably put some folks to task on that through that forum. So there's cleanups that we're doing. We're always looking for volunteers to do that, and they can sign up through our website. And just there's a number of other projects that are going on, like watershed assessments that we're doing in both the Shikshinny Creek and the Bowman's Creek watershed with a lot of our partners. That is helping to get data that's needed for future implementation projects or funds that could be made available to both the municipalities when it comes to culverts and or bridges or sedimentation issues or stream bank problems, but really with a focus on trying to protect and conserve cold water habitats in some of the watersheds that we're working in. And we write those plans every year or so when we get an opportunity to apply for a grant to do the assessment work. That puts our staff and our volunteers in the field to become trained and learn how to, gather that data that's needed for the plans to make recommendations for future implementation projects. So that's just a few others that are more related to like mine pool work and watershed work in the region. Some work is going to get started down in Lost Creek on some mine pools with Kleinfelder and Tom when he gets better. And I think if he's better by next week, we have a meeting down there with the Mahanoy Creek Watershed Association. And we're doing some other work with Schuylkill County Conservation District and partners down in the Pine Knot, Oak Hill, and Repelier mine discharges that are sort of tributaries and discharges that feed the upper Schuylkill River and the west branch of the Schuylkill River. And so there's a lot of feasibility and mapping going on and installation of boreholes and pressure transducers, things that we need to get real-time data for the better data collection to make decisions on future maybe treatment options or moving water in the mine pools from one place to another. So that's just a touch of a few of the projects that we have to juggle, just like you guys do, and multiple sources of funding to do that, and trying to keep it all together is a challenge. But we're doing our best. So how about
yeah, you? I mean, well, I just think EPCAMR is such a great example of thinking outside the box and just finding all these little things that are related to abandoned mine reclamation without pigeonholing yourself, limiting yourself too much, or is the term these days silo. You're not siloed. You are really reaching out and just trying to find every aspect of abandoned mine reclamation, any way you can make a difference in your communities, and anything also to find the funding to, get projects on the ground and partner with people. So I really respect that about you guys. Yeah, so I mean, Whipcammer has really only had a staff of 2 for at least 15 years, probably longer. And so we don't have quite as many, you know, fingers going out into all kinds of different projects, but we really do try to focus in on the legislative end of things, just keeping track of really what's going on at the federal and state level with bills being introduced and um, which legislators are leaning which way to help us. And along those lines, Andy is the regional coordinator for Whipcammer, and he usually does come on and host with us, but he didn't join today. But anyway, he chairs the P. Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Bobby's clicking around there, maybe. Yeah, so Andy chairs the Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Land Campaign, which is a group of abandoned mine reclamation supporters from across the nation, really, that keeps track of bills and different things that are going on around the Surface Mine Control and Reclamation Act, particularly the uh, funds that are collected associated with the AML fund that gets dispersed annually to states and tribes with abandoned mine land inventory to address the problem areas. So, yeah, so we are busy with that. We have weekly meetings with that. And as Bobby said, we do, up until 2020, we were taking pretty regular trips to DC for different campaign issues. Unfortunately, that has stopped in the last few years. In addition to that, some of Whipcammer's other projects are we have the quick response program that is funding pass through Growing Greener that we can provide emergency funds to watershed groups or conservation districts that have abandoned mine drainage. Well, actually, it's any Growing Greener eligible project, but we do, like to give to abandoned mine drainage treatment systems, passive treatment systems first. So it's funding to help with emergency issues there. And you can check that out at our website or by emailing. If you have an issue, you can email Andy directly at andy@whipcammer.org. We also have several OSMRE, Office of Surface Mine Control and Reclamation and Enforcement. We have several of their Watershed Cooperative Agreement Program grants that we are helping to give a little bit extra funding to conservation districts. Typically are not eligible to receive those WCAP funds. So we sort of act as the pass-through to bring those funds to them and best $100,000 needed to get those treatment systems constructed. We have several of those going on right now. And then, as Bobby mentioned, we've got the ARIPA award that we do annually. And then, of course, one of our biggest programs every year is the Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Reclamation Conference. And do we want to talk about the conference now, Bobby, or is that?
We could do a quick recap on it if you'd want.
Yeah, so this we just got done with it in October, middle of October. There we had October 14 through 16. We had I believe it was our 27th annual Abandoned Mine Reclamation Conference held at Toft Trees in outside of State College. And this year it was we had a tour on Tuesday the 14th. Followed by 2 full days of conference presentations, and really did have a lot of really interesting presentations this year. And where we had about 160 people attend, and about around 20 or so, 20 to 25 maybe, different exhibitors. A really fun cornhole tournament and banquet, and we present our annual Mayfly Award at our banquet. Just all kinds of really great stuff. We got good feedback this year too, in our survey evaluations, that this was really a great conference this year. And the food was good, and the hotel was nice. So
Yeah, we lucked out this year with the facility. We tried out a new facility here, and we kind of look to bump that conference around. And I think at our next meeting, we're probably going to have a discussion around that as to whether or not we want to, move it east or west, or just look at a different locations. Because sometimes when we do the tours, the tours kind of dictate where and how far we can go. And if we've already done them around the State College area, trying not to get an hour or further than an hour and a half away from where we're at is probably good in terms of our logistics. And so I think we have some options to present for next year, and trying to look at some other places and consider, what that might look like for next year. And so I think coming up in December, we'll be really discussing that,
yeah,
in much more detail. But yeah,
yeah,
I always enjoy the cornhole tournament. Obviously, being the first annual award recipient of that championship,
yeah,
and we got an anthracite piece of coal that was donated by Christy Swinney from Aripa, and you get to sign it every year. Now, granted, we've had 3 other tournaments, and I've gotten to the finals this past year and gotten ousted in the year before for lots of reasons I don't need to discuss here, but very, very good competition all around, and we always look to have fun, and it's a great way to network with our volunteers and our consultant industry and the state folks that come out, and just really have a good time in the Wednesday evenings after dinner and the Mayfly Award, and get to know a lot of new people, because there's a lot of new people coming into the work here. There's a lot of retirement, and so there's some turnover happening, and we're trying to bring the new people into the mix of something we've been doing for 27 years. What better way to do it than over, a cornhole tournament and some beers and some appetizers. So that cornhole tournament has been sponsored by Tom and Kleinfelder these past few
yeah.
years, and he's yet to play. So I'm not sure how good he is or he isn't, but I think he's staying away from playing because he doesn't even want to try and come up against me. If he'd even make the finals. So
oh,
we'll see.
he just likes everyone having a good time, and yeah,
He
sort of
does. He
being the
does.
master. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
there's an entertainment value for sure upon
mhm.
even the serious note of the presentations during the day, and why we're all there. We're all there for the same reason. So it's a very unique abandoned mine reclamation community that
Yeah.
we are in, and so it's always nice to get together with everybody once a year.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, if it's okay, Bobby, I think we should address a question that's been asked of us in the chat. And so Shamokin Creek Restoration Alliance, is that the right acronym?
Yep. Yep.
SCRA. They want to know what's the most interesting or exciting project to date for each of us. And I think that can span your entire career. And I'll start while Bobby thinks of his answer. But so for me, it was definitely when I was new into my career as OSM AmeriCorps Vista. And if you're not familiar with the AmeriCorps Vistas, they are not there to do on the ground projects or manage things directly. They're there for capacity building and for really, building up the community and making the organization stronger is their purpose. And so, being thrown into that as a newly graduated person, and not having any internship or anything before that, it was kind of a lot of responsibility. But I was thrown right into the middle of dealing with. I was with Black Lakes Creek Watershed Association and Cooperative Trout Nursery, and my first year there, the railroad that supplied a nearby power generating station decided to construct a brand new rail spur the entire length of the watershed. The entire length. So this is a 45 square mile watershed, and they were coming up the side of the creek. Mind you, the other half of our group was to stock the creek as a cooperative, Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission's cooperative trout nursery. And so we needed access. That was the whole point of the organization. And with the railroad coming up the entire length of the main stem of the stream, it was possibly going to take away all access to the entire stream. It was a big deal. So yeah, I spent 3 years negotiating between Army Corps, between the railroad, and if anybody has worked with a railroad, you know that's not an easy task. And with the DEP, luckily it was Katie McGinty was the Secretary of DEP at the time, and somehow we actually had a personal connection with her, and so had her on our side, and somehow was able to talk both the railroad and Army Corps into it, and we got access and a whole bunch of money to construct a treatment system in lieu of a lot of other projects that were planned. And so yeah, it was a big deal. It was I think it was like $1.3 million worth of AMD treatment construction that we got out of it, and access to the stream. So that was the most interesting, and definitely shaped my career from there. So how about you, Bobby? What was your most interesting?
Well, I was trying to think back because there's been just so many great projects in any number of the watersheds that we've been working in. I mean, I think each of them are all successful in their own way. But the one that I kind of circle back to is the fact that in Centralia, um, having gone there since I was an intern in college and seeing a lot of the folks down there that I had to meet while I was this like young state intern going down and taking measurements all around town and getting to know people then, to then only come back, decades later into my career and spending nearly a decade on cleaning up Centralia. And I got together with the very few families that were left there, but there were other family members that had come back. And every time we
Oh,
would do an annual cleanup, they were coming from out of state. My one friend, Michelle Stauffer, she lives down in Virginia, and she comes up for cleanups, and lots of people that used to live there would come back. And so it took us about 10 years of funding that we were implementing with the help of ARIPA grants and other funding sources that came in, Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful, a really good partnership with DCED at the state level that allowed us to access a lot of the lands because it was in state lands that we would do the cleanups on. But going for over a 10-year period, I can remember just like, 125, 150, we'd get lots of volunteers to come down, Jeep groups, off-road vehicle groups come out in full force. And we used to have lunch down there that was sponsored by different food vendors and food trucks, and or we'd get pizza from down in Mount Carmel and be donated. So everybody came through for us that we needed to come through. And we used to have our central command post as the Centralia Hose Company #1. And so my friend Tom Kleinfelder down there, who's still a part of that hose company, would let us use the place that normally looked like it would be shuttered, and it's not. It's still an active sort of fire company in Centralia itself. But the families that would come back and help out with cleanups, and all the volunteers from around the area made us have a very large following of people that were always constantly looking for the next year, because we would go from like 3 or 4 40 cubic yard dumpsters to the point we were down to 1, and then we were down to none. But we were taking out thousands of tires as well, and lots of spray cans down by the old graffiti highway before they covered it over. The one property owner covered it over because of a lot of injuries and other things that were happening during COVID that they just wanted to backfill it with dirt. So you didn't get as much attention as it used to get earlier. But in April 21, Laura Reinheimer, who was with us and working on a particular project with one of our funders from Inquiring Systems out in California, and the Mental Insight Foundation, they funded an effort for us to plant apple trees. We were done after 10 years with cleanups. Like, we didn't need to do any more cleanups. We're like, what are we going to do now? So let's do restoration. Let's do beautification. Let's plant some trees. When in that community, you always had heirloom apple trees and peach trees and stuff like that that were in the people's backyards anyway. So, between Laura and Shawnee's, we were doing testing of the soils, and stuff came back that we didn't need to add anything to the soils. And so we planted 150 apple trees that were like dwarf apple trees that started blooming and blossoming, some of them 4 months later, because they were like 6 foot, 7 foot tall to get start. So they were pretty large. And we put them in these grow boxes that we got through a grant that was like a biodegradable planter box that they could survive in. And we went to town on planting 150 trees and gave away another 150 to all the volunteers. And then every resident in Centralia that came out, I think there were 7 families, but 5 out of the 7 families participated, including Harold Mervine, who helped us dig the holes for the trees. And he's in his late 70s, early 80s right now, still living down there. And I talk to him every now and then. So that was like a culmination event that I've seen from being a very young, guy in my career field to then coming back with my staff and volunteers to clean up Centralia that nobody else would have done. And I think that was a big highlight so far in my career here in doing the work to help people out and to, really take these sites that are being they're not being cared for. They're not, people aren't caring about them, but every place that we go where there's a dump site is connected to a watershed that we're in or we live in or those people live in. And so we are all interconnected in more ways than people think. And a part of our job is to kind of show people that connection. And these projects do that. And then we can talk about other things that are going on downstream or in the mines in that area and what community efforts are going on so that we can reconnect people up with those local folks if they haven't heard of them. And that is a real benefit to the type of work that I think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big highlight.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on an hour here. Let's talk briefly about our visioning session.
Yeah.
And then see if that leads us just a few highlights. So just kind of wrapping this all up. As you see, this whole podcast idea was really put forth through the joint visioning session that WIPCAMR and EPCAMR had a year ago now. It was towards the end of November of last year.
Yep.
And we came up with a number of things to do together to kind of further promote both of our missions across the state because, we're representing both the anthracite and bituminous coal regions, 43 different counties. And how can we better serve our constituents? So the first thing, this is the podcast, it was the first thing that we really decided to tackle. We're continuing to do advocacy and legislation and policy issues. We talked about that with our Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Land campaign that we're both a part of. We both try to reach out and do social media and outreach type stuff. Bobby's in the newspaper all the time, if anybody didn't realize that already. And Bobby's posts on Facebook are legendary. He's always on Facebook. Yeah. And WIPCAMR has the abandoned mine land posts that we send out occasionally with the most important things we can kind of muster up there. We're both providing technical assistance and doing all kinds of operations and outreach to directly to our conservation districts and watershed groups, and helping with administration and organizational capacity needs. We're both trying to do different types of pass-through grants and projects directly with our organizations that we're serving. And lastly, we're both an AMD hub and clearinghouse. Whipcammer has a website already, the AMR clearinghouse, and we hold the annual conference together. And Epcammer just recently got a grant to do an online forum, like a Reddit type forum. Correct, Bobby? You want to tell a little bit about that program?
Yeah, Frank is going to be working on a website that's going to be, I guess we could call it like a subreddit forum for watershed groups and our community to discuss AMD treatment, or maybe questions that they might have just around some of our capacity issues, things that we've surveyed the watershed groups on in the last year or so at our previous conference. Statewide with Power and the Pennsylvania Environmental Council and the Pennsylvania Organization for Watersheds and Rivers. So I think a lot of the AML Connect is going to be it's going to be up and running soon here. And Frank has been working behind the scenes on doing that and going to be providing an update to Deb Nardone for the Foundation for PA Watersheds that's supported that effort, and his work in doing that is something that we will see coming out shortly here. So stay tuned for that. And that'll be something I think our entire community can kind of get in on and answer questions or ask questions, and have other people from across the state just chime in and chip in with their experiences so that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings us to the end of our show here, but we do like to end our shows on a sort of words of advice from our guests. And so I think how we'll do that is I'll note that this year's conference, our theme was From to the Future. And we held a fireside chat that showcased experts or representatives from an array of different watershed organizations with different capacities, and kind of just led them through a panel discussion on where they're at and advice and ways to build capacity, as we kind of just talked through that theme of from our roots to the future. Where did we come from, and where are we going? And so I guess kind of in light of that, and ending here on what are some words of wisdom that each Bobby and I have for our watershed groups out there. And Bobby, do you want to go first, Bobby, or do you want me to go first?
You could go.
Okay. So we did discuss this ahead of time, so I did have a moment to think about it. And I think really what Whipcammer is good at is that, or a way that we fit into all of this, is we're really a great kind of intermediary or liaison between our watershed groups, our conservation districts, the state, and landowners, kind of in the middle of everything, and really kind of keeping an eye on what is going on between all the groups. And I think that the best thing that we are, or the thing that we're the best at, is really connecting those people and groups to one another. And so my word of advice to watershed groups is to reach out to your neighbors. Don't think that you can or you need to be able to manage or do all types of a project on your own. Not everybody can be an expert at everything. And, your watershed group might be good at building volunteers, but maybe doesn't have the connections to funders or something, similar to that. So I would say my advice is to reach out to your neighbors, call Whipcammer, and we'll connect you to your neighbors if you don't know them. And, don't be afraid to ask for help. So that's what we're here for. How about you, Bobby?
Yep, that's some good advice, Ann. I think one of the things I think EPCAMR does very well is kind of connect within the community with our volunteers, basically, because they're the ones that are really helping us make a lot of the projects successful. So we put a call out for them. Some of them have areas of expertise that we're looking for, and we're welcome, those people that can provide us with some type of services or would want to join us in doing the work. And I've often said this, that in all of the projects that we do, particularly when we do like tire cleanups and trash cleanups or roadside stream cleanups or tree plantings, we make our best friends with the volunteers that are at those events. And you wonder, like, why is there 100 people at a trash cleanup talking like it's like they're having the best time of their life? Because really we're there for a good reason, and we're all there for the same reason, and that's to improve the environment, to clean up our land and our waterways and our legacy mine sites, because they're living in those same conditions. So there's a connection there that we all have, and so that is something that really allows us to become even better friends and greater partners. And yes, we can provide some technical assistance and offer some educational programming and watershed type tours and things like that that add to the work that we do. But at the heart of the matter, we're your folks that just live in the same watersheds that are impacted with the same problems, and we're trying to do our best through our nonprofit organizations to bring it home, to kind of clean up that water and also restore some of these old fisheries that are disconnected right now from places that they should be connected and historically were. So, bringing trout back to some of these watersheds is pretty important to many people, and that's a good sign of clean water, like the canary in the coal mine. So doing that kind of work is very beneficial, and the more volunteers we have out to do that kind of work and just be alongside of us for the ride and for the work that's being done, it'll make you feel a lot better knowing that you contributed to work in your own backyard. So, join us anytime, and we welcome it, and would hope that we would see you out at some of our events and programs.
Yeah, thank you. It's really nice. Yeah, it's all about partnerships. Yep.
And lastly, just because we know that Tom got bit by a tick and is
Oh,
probably
yeah.
still home under his covers here, I put two websites out there: getoutdoorspa.org, and the Luzerne Conservation District has a great newsletter and a program. Here is just one example of the mosquito-borne diseases and control that many counties undertake, but you can sign up for a newsletter at the district's website. It's a really good newsletter. And Get Outdoors PA has a really nice publication. It's like a little door publication that you would put on a door, but it's something on ticks and what you can find them, how do you remove them, what should you be wearing, and the repellent. So it was put together by Penn State Cooperative Extension, and you'll find that link in there as well to kind of look for some of that, because now is the time that ticks are pretty prevalent out there during this season. And if you're doing any field work, you want to take precautions. So I just throw some words of advice out there for those of us that are working in the field.
Oh, thank you, Bobby. That's so for sure. So yeah, we're just gonna take this time to thank the Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds once again for sponsoring our podcast. We do have sponsorship of individual episodes remaining, and you can go, Bobby, if you put the link in there, you can go to the EPCAMR store to reserve your spot as a sponsor for an individual episode, and we can show a commercial, or I see someone on there asked about becoming a guest on the show, and you can pay for that. We'll allow you. you want to get a sponsorship, you can actually buy yourself a whole episode, and we'll have you on there to talk. So,
All right. I am
yeah,
looking for
we'd
that.
love to
I'm
have
looking
you.
for that link.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
have the link here.
it's in
I'll
your
put it in.
Epcammer store. Yeah.
Yep, I'm there now.
So,
Yes.
yeah, we've got some interesting guests lined up. We're not sure exactly yet when Tom Clark's going to get back feeling well and be able to join us. It might be next week. It might be next month. I don't know. So stay tuned to find out that. But for sure, our next set in stone episode will be Friday, December 5th at 12 noon. We're not sure. We think that Don Kane.
Yeah, Don Kane
Yeah.
Jr. from the Huber Breaker Preservation Society, another group here locally that's doing a lot of cultural and historic preservation of our anthracite history, right here in our backyard in Ashley, PA. Right next to our office is a very nice park that's been worked on by the Huber Breaker folks, and even Epcammer and Earth Conservancy here, where we're co-located, has done a lot for preserving the anthracite history of the region. So I'm sure Donnie's going to be talking a lot about that in December, and we welcome him to the show.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us, and we'll see you again.
Have a great